You may have already heard the news. President Trump announced a 25% import tariff on imported cars. The basic idea is simple. Hey, just wanted to let you know that if you manufacture cars in America, you won't have to pay any tariffs. If you buy imported cars, you'll have to pay tariffs. It sounds like a win for American jobs, right? Well, get ready because it's a lot more complicated than that. We're talking about a move that could add thousands of dollars to the price of nearly every new car sold in the US, even those assembled here, like the shiny Ford F-150s in showrooms. How'd that happen? So, what does this mean for car manufacturers, American workers, and most importantly, for you, the car buyer? We'll untangle the complex web of tariffs, trade agreements, and unexpected consequences. We'll explore why moving car production isn't as simple as flipping a switch and why the automotive industry is flashing serious warning signs. Let's do this. Alright, let's start with the basics. The main figure here is a 25% tariff on cars imported into the US in fully assembled condition. If those cars arrive at a port from Germany, Japan, or South Korea, BAM 25% tariff. The government's goal is obvious, to get those companies to build those cars here. More factories in the US means more jobs in the US, but here's the first plot twist. Modern cars aren't built in one place, they're global puzzles. Take the Ford F-150, often called the real American truck. It might be put together in Michigan or Missouri, but where do its key parts come from? Let's take a look under the hood, literally. The alternator that keeps the battery charged, it might be from Mexico. I'm wondering if it's the half shaft that transfers power to the wheels. It might be from Canada, and what about the advanced safety sensors? They might be from Germany, the alloy wheels? Once again, Mexico, the tires, they might be from South Korea. Even the high-strength steel used in the car's frame might come from another country and be processed here. Experts say that a typical car has thousands of parts imported from dozens of countries. So what if every car, even the ones with a Made in the US a sticker on the final assembly, is 100% American? That's mostly a myth in today's global automotive world. That's where the tariff plan gets tricky, because those parts that come from abroad, they're also subject to tariffs, which adds to the cost even before the car is assembled on US soil. So this isn't just one simple tariff, it's sort of like a tariff soup. It's a pretty complicated and expensive process. The first layer is a 25% base tariff on imported cars. We've already talked about that. The second layer is about tariffs on imported parts. These parts might also be subject to a 25% tariff on cars, or other universal or reciprocal tariffs that the US might impose. The third layer is the current 25% tariff on imported steel and 10% on aluminum. These raw material costs are already included from the start. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. These countries have been working closely with the US automotive industry for years thanks to free trade under an AFTA, and now USMCA United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, which Trump negotiated himself. At first, parts and vehicles from Canada and Mexico might have also been subject to tariffs. Special Mexico, Canada tariffs on top of all the other tariffs. This caused a lot of concern because car manufacturers had built their operations in North America assuming that parts and vehicles could move around easily. Picture this, a part might start out as raw material in the US, get shipped to Mexico for first processing, come back to the US for more work, go to Canada for putting together into a bigger part, and then finally come back to the US to be put in a car. Could you share an example of a transmission from the transcript? There are 7 border crossings. Putting tariffs on each crossing would be a huge headache and cost a lot. Now, the White House is offering a temporary suspension, saying that parts that comply with USMCA rules may remain tariff-free. For now, but there's still some uncertainty about how tariffs will be applied to non-US content in USMCA-compliant parts. You get my point about complexity? This makes it really hard for car manufacturers to plan ahead. Are these tariffs here to stay? Will the USMCA exemptions apply? When will these tariffs be in full effect? It's confusing, and confusion in business means costs. Alright, let's talk money. All these tariffs on parts and materials, who's paying? At first, it'll be up to the car makers to pay. But you can be sure they won't keep absorbing these costs forever. In the end, these costs will probably be passed on to the retail price at the dealership. How much? The estimates are all over the place, but they're not good. Cox Automotive crunched the numbers based on an early version of the tariff threat. For cars assembled in the US, they estimate we're looking at an extra $3,000 in costs due to potential tariffs on parts from Canada and Mexico. Another $3,000 from tariffs on parts imported from other countries. Add about $400 for existing tariffs on steel and aluminum. And potentially more, depending on reciprocal or other universal tariffs. That's more than $6,000 added to the price of a car assembled in the US. For fully imported cars, you've got the 25% base tariff plus tariffs on imported parts, which could really drive up prices, maybe $8,000, $10,000, or more, depending on the vehicle. Think about the impact on the market. Car prices are already through the roof. Putting thousands more of our hard-earned cash into new cars might make them unaffordable for a lot of families, which would ultimately reduce overall sales. So what should car manufacturers do when costs are going up? The answer is obvious. Move everything parts manufacturing, final assembly to the United States. Problem solved, right? It's not that simple, though. As one expert said, moving this big and complicated supply chain is like trying to lift the state of Maine and move it to Wyoming. Why is it so hard? It takes a long time, years, even and costs billions of dollars to build new factories, especially for complex components like engines or transmissions. It's not like you can just switch suppliers for small components from foreign companies to US companies overnight. It takes months, sometimes more than a year. Testing and safety, you can't just swap in components from a new supplier. Every part has to be tested a lot to make sure it's good, durable, and safe. Safety standards can't be compromised. Mistakes can be fatal and lead to mass product recalls. This whole validation process takes a lot of time and money. Established networks, decades of free trade, have built really efficient and specialized networks all over North America. Breaking up these networks is a huge undertaking. So, car manufacturers have a tough decision to make. Option A, take on the tariff costs, which will cut into profits and make them less competitive. Option B, pass the costs on to consumers, which could cut into sales and potentially lead to production cuts. Option C, invest billions of dollars and wait years to try to move production to the US, while facing uncertainty along the way. Some experts are saying that the impact could even lead to a partial shutdown of vehicle production if critical parts suddenly become unavailable or too expensive. Now, let's talk about jobs. That's what these tariffs are all about. The United Auto Workers UAW were actually pretty happy about tariffs on imported cars. They said it would force companies to bring good-paying jobs back to the US. But here's the thing, many economists and industry analysts argue against that. If tariffs significantly raise car prices, demand will fall. When demand drops, production drops too, and that could mean layoffs, even at US factories. The key point to keep in mind is that if companies decide to move production back to the US to avoid tariffs, they probably won't rebuild the same factories they used to have. They're planning to invest a lot in automation to deal with higher US labor costs and other issues. So there's a chance new factories could be built in the US, but they might be super efficient with robots and not as many people as the factories they replace in other places. These tariffs might speed up the move toward automation in the automotive industry. On top of the direct costs and job losses, there's also the uncertainty factor. Businesses hate uncertainty. Car companies need stable rules to make big, long-term investments. When there's always uncertainty about tariffs, exemptions, and schedules, it can lead to inaction and wasted resources. All that money and effort spent dealing with tariffs is money and effort that's not going into designing the next generation of vehicles, especially electric ones, or competing on the global stage. And on the topic of global competition, while the US has been preoccupied with tariffs, China has quietly become the world's largest car exporter. They're moving fast, especially in electric vehicles. Some people are worried that this internal tariff chaos is a dangerous distraction. As one expert put it, it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. Is the US auto industry stuck while its competitors are moving forward? That's the situation. Trump's automotive tariffs meant to boost US manufacturing have instead made the automotive industry really complicated, uncertain, and possibly more expensive for everyone. Do you think these tariffs will create more jobs in the US, or will they hinder the industry through higher prices and automation? Do you think these tariffs will make the US more competitive, or will they just be a temporary bump in the road while other countries step up their game? The answer is unclear, and the stakes are extremely high for one of America's most vital industries. What do you think? Do you think these automotive tariffs are a good idea for the US economy in the long term? Do these tariffs make you think twice about buying a new car? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll read as many as I can. If this analysis was helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, it really helps the channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and enable notifications. That way you won't miss our in-depth analysis on issues that impact the world and your wallet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.